I never thought a single gate could tear a whole neighborhood apart. But that's exactly what happened the day I came home to find my heavy steel ranch gate ripped clean out of the ground. The HOA president stood there smiling, bragging she'd fixed the eyesore. What she didn't realize, what she couldn't realize, was that gate wasn't decoration. It was the only thing keeping 12 tons of bison from storming her perfect little subdivision. Act 1. The Spark. My name's Jack Carter. I'm 56 years old, a rancher in Montana, born and raised on this land. While other folks talk about cattle, my pride and joy has always been my bison herd. They're not just animals, they're history-living muscle and instinct passed down through the plains long before HOAs and cul-de-sacs. My ranch sits wide pine wood house with a wraparound porch cottonwoods on one side, creek on the other. It's been in my family since 1912. Agricultural zoning, generations of sweat in the soil. Then just beyond the cottonwoods lies Cedar Ridge, a shiny new subdivision where every mailbox matches lawns, look copy-pasted, and the HOA rules with an iron fist. And at the head of that HOA, Karen Whitfield. Mid-40s bob haircut, sunglasses like she walked off a reality TV show. The type who thinks a clipboard makes her queen. At first I tried to ignore her. I figured if I minded my business, she'd get bored and go back to measuring the height of her neighbor's rose bushes. But Karen wasn't built that way. She didn't just want compliance, she wanted control. It started with little digs. She'd stop by while I was hauling hay, wrinkle her nose, and ask why my gate looked industrial. She warned me that livestock near her community posed risks. Always that tone sweet on the surface, poison underneath. My gate, though, wasn't just any gate. Steel set deep in concrete posts strong enough to hold back my herd. It was the line between order and chaos between my ranch and her subdivision. Then came the letter. No stamp, no return address, just slipped into my mailbox. Bold signature. President of the Cedar Ridge HOA. It demanded I remove my gate in 30 days or face fines. I laughed, tossed it in the wood stove. My ranch isn't part of Cedar Ridge, never was. But Karen wasn't done. Flyers showed up taped to my fence posts. Unsafe ranching practices. Endanger our community. Bullet points about aggressive animals, unsightly barriers, property devaluation. Lies, bold print, lies. At the diner I felt stares. Old neighbors shrugged, but new ones whispered like I was harboring wild grizzlies. That was when I knew this wasn't about a gate anymore. Karen had made my ranch her battlefield. Act 2. Escalation and the turning point. The pressure mounted. Karen rolled in with board members' SUVs lined up like a parade, pointing at my land, scribbling notes. She hissed words like liability and legal action. One evening she told me flat out, "If you don't handle this, Mr. Carter, we will." The way she said it chilled me. Not because she had power, but because she was reckless enough to act without it. I won't lie, it got to me. Nights grew heavy. I'd sit on my porch, bourbon in hand, staring at that gate in the moonlight, wondering if maybe she was right. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe my herd was too close. Maybe the stress on the town wasn't worth it. For a moment I thought about giving in, pulling the gate myself just to quiet the noise. That's the part folks don't always see, the doubt. The way lies can worm their way into your head until you start believing them. But then I thought of my father, of the promise I made to protect this land. I thought about the herd, calm and steady, never bothering anyone until someone tried to take their space. That's when it clicked. I wasn't the problem. Karen was. She was the storm cloud building on the horizon. So I got smart. I drove down to the courthouse, dug through zoning records older than she was. There it was, black and white, Carter Ranch agricultural land since 1912, exempt from residential HOA jurisdiction. Cedar Ridge wasn't even platted until the 2000s. I didn't stop there. HOA financial records are public. I filed requests, flipped through line after line until I found it missing funds, community improvements, with no explanation checks signed by Karen herself. She wasn't just power-hungry, she was siphoning HOA money to fuel her crusade. That was my turning point. My fear turned to steel. I started stacking evidence letters, Flyers, photos of her trespassing, even recordings when I could. I built my own file brick by brick, and I made allies. The Harrisons' young couple down the street whispered they didn't believe her lies. A retired vet respected the herd. A mother told me her kids loved watching the bison. Quietly, the tide began to shift. Karen mistook my calm for weakness, but inside I was sharpening the axe. Act 3. The climax and collapse. It all broke loose on a Saturday morning. I'd just finished feeding the herd when I saw engines down by the drive. A flatbed truck, men in reflective vests. And there she was, Karen standing like a general, clipboard in hand, sunglasses gleaming. "What in God's name are you doing?" I barked, boots crunching on gravel. She smiled that smug smile. "Removing a non-compliant structure." The workers looked uneasy. Ma'am said it was approved. "This is private property," I warned. "You've got no right to touch that gate." But she waved her hand. Engines roared. Steel groaned. They unbolted posts, yanked the gate out of the earth like it was nothing more than a garden fence. Neighbors gathered, some clapping, others whispering in disbelief. Karen basked in it like she'd just been crowned queen. I didn't fight. I didn't yell. I just stood there, fists clenched, watching her mistake burn into memory. Because I knew without that gate nothing held back 12 tons of bison. By the time the trucks pulled away, the herd had noticed. Nostrils flaring, hooves, stomping eyes fixed on the wide-open gap. The ground trembled with a low rumble. Karen's smile faltered. "They wouldn't. They won't," she whispered. I crossed my arms. "You just opened the door." Then it happened. The herd surged forward, thunder rolling across the ground. Dust-billowed horns caught the light, muscles rippled as they broke into a run. Neighbors screamed, scattering. Lawns flattened, fences, splintered patio furniture flew. Cedar Ridge became a war zone, nature reclaiming land, one manicured lawn at a time. Karen shrieked orders, waving her clipboard like it could stop a stampede. Nobody listened. My bison trampled her pristine white fence, stomped her flower beds, left steaming piles on her driveway. I didn't move. Didn't need to. The sheriff's office would get calls, the county would step in, and when the dust settled, everyone would know exactly who caused it. That evening, Karen stormed up my drive, hair wild, face red. "This is your fault," she screamed. I leaned back in my porch chair, calm as stone. "Funny, I had a gate to prevent this. You removed it." For once she was speechless, but it didn't end there. Sheriff Dugan showed up, flipped through the file I'd built, shook his head. "Jack, she's got no authority here. We'll file a report." Then came the HOA meeting. Karen strutted to the front, voice sharp, declaring my ranch a threat. Neighbors muttered uneasy. That's when my lawyer, one Claire Reynolds, stepped up with a binder thicker than a Bible. She laid out zoning maps, livestock permits, photos of Karen's crew ripping out my gate. The room went dead silent. Then she dropped the hammer, missing HOA funds checks signed by Karen. Gasps, shouts, people demanding answers. Board members slid their chairs away from her like she was radioactive. Karen shrieked, "That's a lie!" But her voice cracked. Sheriff Dugan confirmed every word, official report in hand. Through the clubhouse windows, the herd wandered along the fence line, silhouettes glowing in the setting sun. It was perfect timing, as if they were silent witnesses to her downfall. Claire's voice cut through. "The only reason this community suffered damage is because this woman destroyed a lawful barrier. She trespassed, misused funds, endangered lives. If anyone is responsible, it is her." The crowd erupted. Shouts of betrayal, threats of lawsuits, demands for resignation. Karen's face flushed crimson, sweat dripping, words drowned by fury. Finally, she slammed her clipboard on the table, screeching, "This isn't over," and stormed out, heels clattering like gunshots. But it was over. Everyone knew it. A week later, Cedar Ridge residents filed a class action suit against her. The county pressed charges: trespassing, property destruction, misuse of funds. She sold her house at a loss and vanished. And me, I rebuilt my gate, stronger than ever, a symbol that boundaries matter. Final line. Pride can tear down fences, but truth always holds the line.